I have come to northern France to tell a wonderful story of bravery from 80 years ago during the Second World War. Here in the Normandy countryside, a young Lieutenant Tasker Watkins displayed such outstanding bravery that he was awarded the Victoria Cross. He showed exceptional leadership and repeated courage on the battlefield when the situation had looked hopeless for him and his men. Tasker Watkins, the middle of 7 children, was born in Glamorgan, South Wales, and was a talented rugby player in his youth. After the outbreak of the Second World War in 1939, Watkins served in the ranks of the Duke of Cornwall's Light Infantry before being commissioned as a second lieutenant into the Welsh Regiment in 1942. Operation Overlord was launched on D-Day, June 6, 1944. The Battle of Normandy saw up to 2 million Allied troops land in northern France by the end of August in order to liberate German-occupied Western Europe. On the evening of August 16, 1944, Lieutenant Watkins' battalion attacked German positions near the village of Barfort. While advancing through cornfields that had been booby-trapped with mines, his company came under a heavy fire. As they closed in on 2 enemy machine gun posts, Watkins was the only officer left standing. His men were isolated from the main battalion, and worse still, all radio communications were lost. In the fading light and largely surrounded, Watkins decided that he and his men would have to fight their way out and get back to their battalion. He led from the front and charged the first machine gun post with his Sten gun, killing the enemy manning it. Next, he led the charge on an anti-tank gun that was targeting his men. When his Sten gun jammed, he threw the weapon in the face of a German gunner before shooting him dead with his own pistol. Watkins and his company then crossed back through the cornfield, again under heavy German fire. When the enemy appeared to falter, he led a bayonet charge, killing several more soldiers. Watkins then single-handedly charged yet another machine gun post, killing or wounding all the Germans. In darkness and after 5 hours of fighting, Watkins eventually brought in the remaining 27 members of his company to safety. 33 of his men had been killed or wounded. Close to the cornfield where Watkins and his men faced the German position, there is a modest plaque in commemoration of his action. I became the proud custodian of Watkins' medal group in 2008. The citation for his Victoria Cross concluded. His superb gallantry and total disregard for his own safety during an extremely difficult period were responsible for saving the lives of his men and had a decisive influence on the course of the battle. In October 1944, Watkins, by then an acting major, was severely wounded in fighting in southern Holland. One of his legs was so badly damaged that the surgeon wanted to amputate it. Watkins pleaded that he should be allowed to keep it, and the surgeon relented. After the war, Watkins worked as a lawyer, and he eventually became a High Court judge. He was knighted in 1971. In 1993, he was elected as president of the Welsh Rugby Union, a post he held for 11 years. Watkins, a married man with 2 children, died in September 2007, aged 88. A statue was erected in his honour at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, the home of Welsh rugby. Standing beside the statue, Gareth Davies, the legendary Wales and British Lions fly half, talked affectionately about Watkins.
The one thing I always sort of remember about him was when he spoke, you feel you didn't have to listen, but you wanted to listen. He was such a great orator. I remember reading an article recently about how politicians attempted to or tried to persuade him to stand as an MP some years ago with the, I'm not sure who actually made the promise, but the promise of possibly becoming Prime Minister. And so there's probably no greater accolade than somebody trying to be tempted along that route. And And I think he's been referred to by many, a critic and expert, as one of the greatest Welshmen of the 20th century.
I am here at the British Normandy Memorial, which records the names of more than 22,000 servicemen and women under British command who fell on D-Day and during the subsequent Battle of Normandy. It's an appropriate location to read the words of Tasker Watkins, who during a rare interview long after the war ended, spoke movingly of his VC action. I didn't wake up the next day a better or braver person, just different. I'd seen more killing and death in 24 hours, indeed been part of that terrible process than is right for anybody. From that point onwards, I've tried to take a more caring view of my fellow human beings, and that, of course, always includes your opponent, whether it be in war, sport, or just life generally.